Jeff Nippard versus Mike Van Wyck has a part 2. A new CCTV footage has come out, and maybe I should retract what I said in my video before. Maybe not. But let's take a look, and I'll give you my opinion. Now, ultimately, this still comes down to don't be a cant. T-shirts right there. YouTube shop, LHBK.shop. Don't be a cant. Let's find out who is being the cant, Jeff or Mike. And let's get straight into the footage. I know that this is a point of interest, and it is important because if Mike is getting raked over the coals for something that he really hasn't done wrong, then there's obviously a pretty serious problem with that. So when we watch the CCTV, we see at Pure Muscle, a gym very close to me, we see Mike walk over, and it looks like he's just going to a machine, and Jeff happens to be on the way, and Jeff is getting filmed doing some bicep curls. Now, the way Jeff describes it, Mike brushes his shoulder and says, "Sup." We see that seems to happen. I don't see a brush of the shoulder, but there's certainly a brief exchange where Mike is talking, Jeff is not, and Mike walks away. Jeff watches him walk away, turns to his cameraman, and sort of like a, "What was that? Did you just see that happen? Were you filming that?" Whatever it is. Jeff seems to chuckle. Then it's exactly what Jeff had said. He then turns, Mike says something, Jeff says it's about to get real funny. Then not much happens. Now, in Jeff's recount, he said that Mike said something's about to get funny. Jeff said what? Mike then comes over to Jeff and the whole assault takes place. That's not exactly what happens. And bear with me to the end, and please stick around because I think this is important. So Jeff has the cables in his hands. He's wide open. He chuckles. He finishes his set. Literally all he does is finish his set. As soon as he's done, I should say, while he's doing his set, Mike comes over, grabs a piece of exercise equipment behind Jeff's videographer. Then he goes over, and he's not saying anything. He's minding his own business for the most part. Now, Jeff continues on. Jeff finishes his set. During this time, Mike isn't really looking over. Now, Jeff hasn't said anything in return. It doesn't look like, anyway. Jeff finishes his set and immediately drops the cables, turns to his camera guy, says something, and walks towards Mike. Now, Jeff still hasn't said anything. This guy has come up. He's sort of brushed him, said sup, said things are going to get real funny, but there's really been nothing on Jeff's part. Jeff walks from the cables over in between the cable machine where Mike is. Now, this is getting a lot of heat that Jeff is walking over to Mike. I'll give my 2 cents when all is said and done. But Jeff has walked, I'm going to estimate 7 feet towards Mike. He turns to his camera. When he gets 7 feet, Mike walks about 6 feet to go confront Jeff. When he does that, this is when almost straight away, Mike jabs him in the throat. As soon as he gets close enough to Jeff, he jabs him. There's no conversation. Jeff goes flying. Now, there are multiple ways that Jeff could have been really injured, and I think everyone's thankful that he wasn't. Not anything to do with YouTube or social influence or who he is, but just as a human being getting assaulted, you hope that they're fine. He gets hit in the throat. He falls over top of a seated row machine, catches himself with his arm. I've seen many broken arms that way. He then gets to his feet. His hands are up. He's sort of avoiding any sort of conflict. His videographer has stopped filming, presumably because when you see something that shocking, any human being's nature is going to be put your camera down. Presumably, Jeff and his cameraman are friends, and if they are friends, you would want to be in some sort of position to help out. Now, Jeff gets shoved again by the throat. He's got his hands up, as in trying to avoid the confrontation and trying to avoid getting hit. Mike is clearly the aggressor at this stage. And Jeff has his hand, and he's trying to retreat. Mike then turns around. Jeff's videographer is standing there. Jeff's videographer just doesn't move out of the way, doesn't do anything wrong. Just Mike sort of bodies through him. Then he shoves Jeff's videographer into the cable. Now, this video and this CCTV, it shows that Jeff wasn't fully truthful. And let me explain. He said that Mike came over to him and jabbed him in the throat when Jeff actually walked a few steps over to Mike. But here's the crux of it. It doesn't matter in the least. Jeff was confronted. He walks a few steps towards Mike to say exactly what he said. And I'm getting animated about this because people are somehow saying that Jeff has a role in what happened. But he walks over and says something along the lines of what's about to get real funny. And in no way does his body language seem aggressive or physically confrontational. And Mike immediately comes over and jabs him in the throat and tells him in some capacity to leave him alone as he continues to chase Jeff, continues to jab him in the throat again, turns around, continues to assault Jeff's cameraman. The faction of the fitness community who says anything about Jeff's recount not being accurate, about Jeff having some role in this turning aggressive is utter and complete nonsense. You have every right as a person, if someone has some sort of threatening statement, to say, what do you mean by that? There's a subtext here where if Jeff continued to work out and Mike's in the same space and he's already just threatened him, if you don't go confront him face to face, who knows what he's going to do if you're not paying attention or if you're holding a weight or if you're in some sort of more compromised position. And through this whole time, Jeff was 100% justified after he was hit the first time to try to fight back in some way. Now, I don't know if Jeff can fight. I don't know if Mike can fight. I don't know how that would turn out, but he was totally justified if he wanted to physically protect himself. But clearly, Jeff has a high moral ground and he's just protecting himself. And for some people, you could see that as some sort of scared of a fight, some sort of retreating. But when you're in a public space where there are people who are uncomfortable, where there are people who are there for the first time, they're just trying to better themselves, engaging in any sort of physical confrontation is going to be the antithesis of everything that I stand for. And based on Jeff's actions, presumably what he stands for as well. So the only difference between Jeff's accounts and what actually happened is Jeff walking 6 feet to say, what did you mean by that? And he said, what did you mean by that? And that's it. And Mike jabs him in the throat, chases him down, jabs him again, continues to track him down, turns around, assaults his videographer. There's no gray area at all. In fact, it doesn't even matter because some people are speculating what might Jeff have said to set Mike off. Guess what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your words versus your actions are very, very different things. And if you have a short enough temper that someone's words are going to cause you to behave in a way that is illegal, that will have you put in jail, that will have you charged, that will have everyone around you uncomfortable and leave some sort of lasting impact, well, that responsibility is solely and entirely on you. I'm not crying sorry for Jeff. He's a man who got hit a couple of times with a stupid confrontation. It sucks and it's uncomfortable, but I have been jumped before. I was jumped by 6 guys when I was out in Australia, guys I had never met, had no interaction with. They were just doing it for the fun of doing it. And you behave differently. You think differently. You feel more vulnerable after something like that's happened. And there's no question that Jeff would feel this way after this assault by Mike. Doubly, I cannot imagine the people in the fitness community who are digesting this and listening to the devil's advocates who maybe you're trying to do it for views, maybe you're trying to do it for clicks, but there's no devil's advocate to a 5'10" claiming to be 6 foot guy pushing a 5'5" guy who he outweighs by 120 pounds multiple times because of some sort of intellectual disagreement, which clearly the intellect lies firmly on one side in this case. Now, this has come out. There are people who are saying that this changes what happened. This changes absolutely nothing. Absolutely. The entire time, Jeff had taken no aggressive action. Mike has continued to be the aggressor. He has not one time done anything to diffuse the situation. Jeff has not one time done anything to push the situation forward. He has every right to wonder what's going on. But you guys have now seen the CCTV. I would love to know your thoughts on the matter. And it's one that I just won't budge. I saw comments that I'm taking Mike's behavior personally, and I am. Because it's people like me who are interpreted differently because of how people like Mike act. And people like me and my friends who look like me and people who engage in the activities that I engage in, I don't know a single one of them personally who behaves this way. This is an extreme outlier. This is someone who is clearly someone of low moral fiber, of low moral value, and this is how he tends to want to solve problems. I don't care what's going on in your life. I don't care what's going on in your head. I've had difficult days. I'm sure Jeff has had difficult days. I'm sure every one of you listening to this has had difficult days. If that difficult day is going to result in you having a predisposition to try to physically harm someone who disagrees with you on an intellectual capacity, then you are absolutely out to lunch, and there's no CCTV that's going to prove otherwise. As per usual, lift heavy, be kind, and as an addition, don't be a cant. Don't be a cant like Mike. If you want Don't Be a Cant, go ahead, check that out, link in the description, which, by the way, we had these shirts well before this scenario. This is not profiteering off of Jeff getting throat chopped, but it is a all the while purposeful, important message to put out there. If you look like me, if you look like Mike, and you want to show people that you behave not like Mike, but like a reasonable human being, like 99% of other people in the gym and on the planet, go ahead and pick yours up. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Click that subscribe button. Until tomorrow, be safe.